Hi, my name is Dr. Mandy, and I'm here with Jeff Hoyt. And we are going to be talking all about Zeolite Labs and the wonderful products that he has brought to my patients. So, quick introduction about me. My name is Dr. Mandy. I'm a doctor in clinical nutrition, and I work pretty much mostly with people who have interstitial cystitis and bladder pain syndrome. And I've known Jeff for about 6 or 7 years now and really have been relying on his products. So, now that we're talking about Zeolite Labs, let me ask you, why did you start this company?
Right. So, I mean, when we first met, I was doing some other things. I had my other supplement company, just really interested in the nutritional wellness space with wellness technology, with supplements, all sorts of good stuff. And I came across Zeolite a few years back, and I quickly realized that Zeolite was one of the most powerful supplements and just wellness tools in general that I had come across, but also one of the most misunderstood and misused products. So after gaining experience with it with a number of clients, with myself, I realized that really something needed to be done in the industry because there was so much information out there, so much confusion, so many products, some better than others. So I started Zeolite Labs, one, to provide a quality zeolite product that goes beyond the hype and actually gets results, and two, to provide education for people on how to use it to get the best results, especially the type of people that generally have not had great success with detox protocols in the past, people that are potentially more sensitive to detox and have more health challenges. So that's really what I'm tailored towards. I also wanted to provide a zeolite product that has some evidence that it actually works. So we have our case studies that I conducted prior to launch, basically showing what they could do. So we knew what we were selling before we started selling it.
Well, we really appreciate all the education that you offer us. So, while we're talking about zeolite, can you let us know what it is and how does it work?
Sure. So zeolite is it's famous for detox, but it does a bunch of other stuff, which I'm sure we're going to get into. But it's a volcanic mineral that has a strong negative charge. And that negative charge allows it to, like a magnet, be attracted to the positively charged toxic elements that don't belong in our bodies. So that I like to call it a detox magnet. It's this natural mineral. It goes in, it starts grabbing all these toxic things that we don't want and helps them remove them from our body, which is super important in the 21st century because we're just exposed to so many toxins.
Yeah, so that's important to understand too, because I feel like a lot of times people don't realize that the toxins that we're exposed to accumulate with age. So, you've said to me once before that zeolite is a smart binder. Can you explain what that means?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that makes it so unique. It's because people will ask, well, if it's got this negative charge and it goes and grabs to these positively charged elements, aren't there some things in our body that we want in there, like essential minerals that are positively charged? And that's true. So the difference between zeolite and some of the other chelators, binders, and detox agents is that it is a selective or a smart binder, meaning it's only grabbing the toxic elements and it's leaving the essential nutrients alone. And how it does that is through a swap mechanism. So naturally occurring, zeolite has electrolytes in its cage. So it's a cage-like structure, like a honeycomb lattice, and it naturally has these minerals in it, and it'll swap those minerals for things that it likes better. So for example, it has potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium. So let's say a zeolite cage that has magnesium enters the body and it comes across some mercury. The zeolite is more attracted to, or it has a higher level of affinity for the mercury than the magnesium that's already in its cage. So it swaps the magnesium for the mercury. Now you have the mercury safely trapped in the zeolite structure and it removes it from the body. So if zeolite comes across one of your other essential minerals or something else, it's not going to bind to it because it already has the minerals that it prefers, if that makes sense.
So, are you basically saying that it actually can raise your minerals in that manner?
Right. It's not a mineral supplement per se. I mean, zeolite is a mineral, but it's not a bioavailable mineral that's going to be used for cellular functions. The minerals contained in it, potentially there is a minor mineralizing effect because it is swapping them, but they're really going to be low amounts. But once again, they're going to be going to where they need to go most likely, because as they displace some of these toxic elements that might be taking the place of essential minerals, it can swap them and get them to where they need to go.
That's awesome. That's totally awesome. So, you mentioned mercury. Can you also talk about other harmful toxins that zeolite can help remove from the body?
Absolutely. So it really is very broad spectrum. It binds to a number of things. So you've got heavy metals, and that's traditionally what it kind of became famous for. It's just strong ability to remove these toxic metals from our body. Things like mercury, cadmium, lead, arsenic, gadolinium, barium, all sorts of metals. And we're going to get into the case studies at some point, but ZeoCharge, our zeolite product, has been shown to remove 15 different toxic metals from the tissue level. And that's every metal we tested it for. So pretty amazing. It's able to basically remove them all. Beyond the toxic metals, it's able to remove some environmental toxicants. So just some of the various toxic elements we're exposed to from the environment, just from industry, and things from the farming industry like glyphosate in the genetically modified food, which is a huge concern. It's been shown to bind to that. It's been shown to bind to certain mycotoxins, such as aflatoxins, ochratoxin A, and a lot of people do use it that are dealing with mycotoxin illness. It's been shown to bind to radioactive materials, such as cesium and strontium, and it's actually been used, zeolite has been used commercially to help clean up the environment after nuclear disasters like in Chernobyl, because zeolite was used to purify, lakes and various water systems and just the environment in general. So it's pretty cool, the radiation aspect. It's also able to bind to metabolic waste products, which I think is one of the most underlooked aspects and benefits of zeolite. Things like ammonia, right? So ammonia is just a natural byproduct of digestion. But if someone's liver is not functioning properly, there might be a buildup of ammonia, and it's very toxic. It can affect the central nervous system. It can cross the blood-brain barrier, cause all sorts of issues. Zeolite has a very strong binding affinity for ammonia. So it helps with things like that. Histamine is another one. A lot of people that have excess histamine, such as in the case of, mast cell activation syndrome, a lot of people dealing with Lyme or mycotoxin illness, they get this buildup of histamine, and zeolite has an affinity to bind to some histamine as well. So just its direct binding ability towards all these toxic elements is very unique, because it's not like just a traditional chelator or something that's very targeted for metals. It's able to go after so many things that we're dealing with, which I think is one reason it makes it so effective. And I do want to comment as well, is that beyond direct binding ability, just what it has attraction to, it's also been shown to remove and protect you from another of other toxic elements through more indirect mechanisms. So for example, in our case studies program, it was able to remove fluorine, right? So fluoride, and there's studies as well showing it was protecting animals from fluoride toxicity. And zeolite's not going to have a direct bind at all towards fluoride in the halogen group, but it was still able to remove it from the tissue level, and it's still able to protect against it. And that's going to be more of an indirect mechanism. And I think that's one of the keys as well. It's such an effective detox agent that it gets the body's natural detox processes working properly. And that's really the key to a successful detox, is to get your body's own process working. And I think that's one of the reasons that makes it so effective.
Does that also apply to toxic copper? Is that more indirect? Because I read somewhere that zeolite was really good for helping mobilize and remove toxic copper from the tissues.
What we found from our tissue testing, which includes copper and zinc, is that it's not going to directly go in and grab to tissue levels of copper, zinc, or any of the essential minerals, but it can help balance them. So a lot of people have low copper and low zinc, and it helps raise those levels. But some people have high levels of copper and zinc, or one or the other, or both, and it helps lower the levels. So it's more of a regulatory or modulating effect on the metals, more of an indirect mechanism. Now, it's possible that if there's excess of a toxic metal that's floating around in the bloodstream, that maybe it has some sort of direct binding affinity for, but it's more likely that there's some mechanism that's helping it balance. But we've never seen it go in and rip out copper or any other essential mineral from the tissue.
Great. Okay, good. That's good to know. That comes up a lot. So, alrighty. So next question for you is, this is a hot one. And I know those listening, are all zeolites the same? Because there's a lot out there. So can you clarify this, please?
Yeah, great question. It's super important, because people get so excited. They start seeing this information. They're on social media, they're on whatever, and they're like, oh, zeolite's the cure all. And they're like, I'm just going to go find the next zeolite out there. And so the first thing to understand is that zeolite is a class of mineral. So there's a number of naturally occurring zeolites on the market, and there's also synthetically made zeolites. So we have to understand what we're talking about. The main zeolite that's used for supplements for human consumption is called clinoptilolite. And that's the zeolite that we use in our product. And that's for safety reasons, right? We don't really want to be using some of these others because some of them can actually be harmful. And we're going to talk about potentially like the aluminum toxicity issue that comes up in various things. But with clinoptilolite zeolite, that's the one that's been proven through numerous studies to be safe and effective when used properly. That's what we use. The clinop, just it's mined, right? It's a volcanic mineral, so there's zeolite mines, and we have to understand that there's different quality deposits around the world as well. So you've got commercial mines, you've got mines designated specifically for supplements. Ours is coming from a private mine that's just used for mining zeolite for supplements. Most of the zeolite is mined from a commercial mine because zeolite's used commercially for water filtration, for all sorts of industrial purposes, and it's just a whole different process. One, they're using, milling, which is kind of crushing the cage. It's very cheap. There's usually spilling diesel all over the place. They're not, because it's not designed for human consumption. A lot of those products that zeolite makes its way to the market, which of course is not ideal, but there's just a big difference. Clinoptilolite, like I said, is the one we want. Ours is 94% clinoptilolite, which is really high. Some of the other products on the market are going to be 50, 60, 70% clinoptilolite. The rest is just going to be the other, earth matter that's comprised of the whole compound. So lots of factors to consider, but no, everything's not the same. And just for supplements in general, you've got various classifications, right? You've got mainly two. You've got liquids versus powders, but there's so much confusion now because traditionally zeolite was just sold in a powder form, right? Because zeolite itself is this, it's a mineral, so it looks like a huge rock. And then from there, it's processed and it can be basically sliced into smaller particle sizes. And that's going to determine the function of the product. So traditionally, you have these zeolite products, they're powders. They kind of, whether they're using the commercial application, which is definitely not ideal, or they're using, more designed for supplements, the more legitimate companies, you're going to have larger particle sizes. These zeolite products stay in the gut. They act as a nice binder. Everything's great, right? That's fantastic. It's more like a charcoal or a bentonite clay or something like that. Then they started developing what they were referring to as liquid zeolites or zeolite sprays. And basically what they were doing, a lot of people basically just took the same powder that was being sold in supplements, mixed it with a trace of water and called it liquid zeolite. So that was about 95% of the liquid zeolites on the market. So you have to be aware of that. Just unfortunately, people trying to take advantage of the marketing hype around it. Now, some of the other companies did make it a little bit different. What they did was make the zeolite particles even smaller. So, and there's benefit to that as well, because they were saying, we don't want this just to be a GI binder. We want this to offer a full body detox. So they further micronized the zeolite and put it in a liquid. So, and we see the benefits of both, right? So basically what ZeoCharge is, we saw all these products on the market and said, okay, we're going to combine the best of all these products into one. Because what people were doing was buying some of these small particle sized liquid zeolites for the full body detox. They were then buying the zeolite powders for the GI binder because the other ones on their own might have caused too many detox reactions, or the GI binding effect is powerful as well. So what we did was we combined the benefits from both. So basically what ZeoCharge is the best of the liquid zeolite products combined with the best of the powdered zeolite products, all into one product to make it an effective full body detox. And then we've gone through all the rigorous processes as well to make it safe and show that it works and all those things.
And you've basically done that with the way you've micronized it, correct?
Right. So yeah, and that's key. Micronization is so the three thing I'll get into just kind of what sets ZeoCharge apart. There's really three pillars. I call it the 3Ps, which is going to be purity, particle size, arrangement, and proof. But one, it's pure, because like I said, a lot of these zeolites are just coming from just zeolite mines that are used for commercial applications. It's really not good quality zeolite because they haven't taken the the standards aren't there for human consumption because that's not what they're designed for. So that's one thing to just be aware of. And then another thing, and then a lot of them are not cleaned. So we have a proprietary cleaning process because zeolites by nature have that negative charge. They're going to attract heavy metals and various toxic elements from the environment. So those things need to be cleaned out to have an effective product. And then we remineralize the zeolite with the electrolytes to make sure that it has the minerals for exchange. Because otherwise, if a company cleans out the zeolite, doesn't remineralize it, it might start grabbing onto your essential minerals, and we have issues there. So we've got all sorts of standards for purity. We're using the private mine without, not used for commercial applications, all of that stuff. And then it's micronized. So micronization is a much more expensive process than milling, but basically it's a slicing motion, whereas the commercial zeolite product mines will just have this crushing motion. Very cheap to do. It's going to damage the zeolite cages though and make it much more less effective and potentially not safe for consumption. Micronization is slicing, so it keeps the zeolite cage intact, but just reduces the particle size, and we can get to much lower particle sizes through that process opposed to milling alone. So that's just kind of the purity. Then we have the particle size, right? So that's where we micronize it to the unique particle size what we want. So that's where some of the companies keep it larger for the gut. Some of them make it super small. We keep it kind of the combination of both. Now, one question, because there's at least one liquid zeolite company that is marketing it as, well, there's a lot that are marketing it as nano-sized. Most of these are not nano-sized. They're just lying, basically, if we're being honest. But there are some that are smaller, that definitely are smaller. And those, there's just less research on it. I'm not really comfortable with nano zeolite at this point. So ZeoCharge doesn't contain really these super tiny nanoparticles. Now it's small, it's less than 1 micron, so super small. It's honestly smaller than most of the liquids on the market that are referring to them as nano, but we don't want it so small that where research hasn't been conducted on it. So that's kind of where we're at with the particle size. And then we have, and as you know, I had the previous zeolite supplement that had a different range of particle sizes, and there's all sorts of great stuff. But with ZeoCharge, we basically optimized the particle size. So we found that this particular arrangement was just more effective than any other zeolite we had found. And just if you have this product and you compare it to another zeolite powder, and you just look at it, you can see the purity. You can see that it's much finer. Most of them are going to be grainy, sandy, get stuck in your teeth. This one is like just super fine. People absolutely love it. So you can tell the difference just from looking at it, tasting it, just experiencing it for yourself. The last thing is proof. Most zeolite products are just going to be a lot of marketing hype. And some, I mean, I'm not saying there's not good products on the market, and certainly there are a number of products that have helped people, but we can't always trust the claims that we read for really any supplement, because a lot of, there's a strong marketing component to the nutritional supplement industry. And in order to get people to buy things, a lot of times benefits are exaggerated, right? Because people want to think this is the greatest thing that I've ever come across. There's no harm. It's just everything is great. And that's not always the case with supplements. So we wanted to provide some proof that the product actually works. So we did our case studies program, which basically proved, yes, it was able to remove heavy metals and from the tissue level, which no other company can prove as well. We can remove up to 15 metals from the tissue, and we can do so without negatively impacting the vitamins or mineral status, which is a lot of companies cannot say that either. At least they cannot prove it. So lots of things going on, but basically it's a great product. We've taken all the steps to ensure safety, and it's natural. That's another thing. Some of the zeolite products in the market are synthetic, especially some of the liquids, and you have to be careful there because it's just a completely different compound. And that's where some of the additional safety concerns come into play, where there's potential, the body doesn't always know what to do with it, and it can accumulate and cause aluminum toxicity. And some of the research on synthetic zeolites shows that it's not necessarily safe for human consumption. So that's one thing to be aware of. But ours is 100% natural.
Well, we like the consistency of it. So I have a shake that I've made. I think I showed you pictures of it. I put half of a banana or maybe a whole banana, the dosing of the zeolite, which we'll talk about. And I use like non-dairy milk, like a flax milk or a pea milk or coconut milk with ice, and mix it all up. And it's the zeolite smoothie. I call it a zeolite milkshake, actually.
Perfect.
It's really good.
So
It's easy to get down is my point, because it's not grainy, like you said. Yeah. Alrighty. Next question for you is, what are the health benefits of zeolite in general? I know people who are listening, have a variety of different, things they're trying to target. So can you kind of sum that up?
Sure, lots of health benefits. I mean, it's really what people generally are attracted to when they come across zeolite. Is its strong ability to detox, because I think most people recognize that living in the 21st century, we just need some additional detox support because we're just bombarded from the food, water, air with all sorts of toxic elements. And just the zeolite going in and acting as that detox magnet and assisting your body in removing these toxic elements is absolutely huge. But what we've found is that there's actually a number of additional benefits to zeolite that are partly due to the detox effect, but a lot of them, it's more of just the binding effect of reducing stress on the body. So for example, you've got anti-aging. So that's one thing that's kind of interesting. Everyone wants to live as long as they can and as healthy as they can. And so you have this whole trend of anti-aging products, and there's serums and creams and all sorts of stuff. But traditionally, when you think anti-aging, you think antioxidants, right? So you take an antioxidant supplement with vitamin C or resveratrol or some sort of formula, and it's supposed to make you live longer, basically. How those work, antioxidants are designed to combat oxidative stress, right? So oxidative stress is a result of free radicals, excess free radicals in the body, which are just unstable molecules that are wreaking havoc on the body. They're missing an electron. So when your body's natural ability to combat free radicals isn't able to keep up with the free radicals being produced, you have this situation called oxidative stress occurring, which results in inflammation, accelerated aging, and just poor cell health. So it's an issue. And at that point, antioxidants can be taken, which basically, like a vitamin C, will donate an electron and it'll stabilize these free radicals. And that'll help kind of calm down the fire. And that's great. But a lot of people zeolite is different because it has a three-prong approach to dealing with free radicals and oxidative stress. It has the ability to directly neutralize the free radicals, similar to the other antioxidants, but opposed to donating an electron, it actually traps the free radicals in its cage and removes them from the body. So very interesting. Same result. It's neutralized the threat, but it's removed it in a different way. Now, that's great, but if we don't resolve why we have the excess free radicals, then we're going to have to continue on increasingly high doses of antioxidants basically forever, because you need that continual support. So ideally, you figure out what's causing the free radical production, you get rid of them. That's where zeolite comes in. One, it's providing the initial support, calming down the system. I like to say it calms the storm. And then two, it's actually removing a lot of the sources of free radical production. So things like heavy metal exposure, exposure to radiation, exposure to a lot of those toxic elements that we previously discussed that zeolite binds to. Those things, when they're in the body, produce free radicals, which results in that oxidative stress or accelerated aging and inflammation. So one, we're binding to the free radicals, stopping the fire. Two, we're removing the toxic elements that are causing the excess production of free radicals to begin with. So, and then thirdly, we're enhancing the body's natural ability to deal with free radicals. So it's called total antioxidant capacity. And that's your body's built-in system to deal with free radicals. And we're all exposed to some level of stressors and free radicals on a daily basis. And our natural body system has defenses against that. Things like glutathione peroxidase, superoxide dismutase, even vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin E. All these things are supports to help us battle oxidative stress and free radicals. So if we have a higher total antioxidant capacity, then we're able to deal with more free radicals without getting the damage, without getting the oxidative stress. So zeolite can help raise your total antioxidant capacity as well. So there's animal studies showing that it increases levels of glutathione peroxidase, superoxide dismutase. And in our case studies, we see that ZeoCharge is able to raise levels of all the vitamins we tested it for, including the antioxidant vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin C, without supplementing with those things. Just by reducing the oxidative stress, the body's natural antioxidant capacity raises because it doesn't have to use up its resources as quickly to fight these things because the zeolite's doing the job for it. So basically for anti-aging, it's really the best thing I can think of, because one, it's got the advantages of the other antioxidant products because it's directly uh, neutralizing the free radicals, kind of stopping the fire, and then it's also raising your body's natural ability to combat those free radicals. And then it's also reducing the formation of the free radicals by removing the toxic elements. So that's really the three-step approach to anti-aging, from at least from an oxidative stress free radical perspective, and Zeolite covers it all.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's very nice because you really don't need to take all these other, it sounds like you won't need to take a whole lot of these other antioxidants when you're using zeolite, or you can use less because it's doing a lot of the work for you indirectly, not directly, but indirectly. So, and that makes sense that it would also help with other things like weight loss and brain fog and digestion and energy, because a lot of that boils down to inflammation and oxidative stress. Is that correct?
Right. And there's different mechanisms for each one, but weight loss, for example, it's an unexpected benefit a lot of people experience when they take ZeoCharge. And it makes sense though, because when your body's exposed to these toxic elements, right, these toxins, these metals, these things, the body has to process them. Whatever it can't immediately get out, it's going to have to store somewhere. And the natural storage unit bins for these toxic elements is fat. And the body would prefer to put these toxins in general fat tissue opposed to organs. So a lot of people actually that have some extra weight, that fat is actually protecting them against some of the toxic elements that would otherwise be in organs causing damage. Now, if those individuals try to go on a weight loss protocol, they're doing everything right. Maybe they lose some weight, but they're kind of plateaued, they're stuck. A lot of times they take the ZeoCharge and that last 10 pounds just falls off, because the body as a defense mechanism will often hold on to the fat because it's housing the metals and toxins. And if you lose the fat, those toxins and metals then are released into circulation, into the bloodstream. And if your body can't get them out, they're going to go to organs and cause a lot of stress. So the body oftentimes just holds on to fat as a defense mechanism. If you can go in and remove those toxins and metals from your body says, you know what, I don't need this extra fat anymore. Let's get rid of it. And then the body kind of goes to its ideal weight. So that's one of the ways that it can influence weight, which is a great.
I will also mention it'll also prevent some of the downsides of when people lose weight too quickly and the toxins get recirculated. You know, you hear people who go on these weight loss plans, they lose a lot of weight and then the toxins get recirculated and they don't really have anything helping them manage all these toxins. And you hear stories about brain fog and, they get more toxic because they lost weight. And this is a good way to prevent that, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say with any sort of weight loss protocol, ZeoCharge is a really great add-on to the protocol, one to help you lose the weight, but also to protect you against the redistribution of those toxic elements that occurs potentially during weight loss, because it can be dangerous losing weight.
Definitely. Well, that's great. So a lot of health benefits. So what about Lyme disease? Can it help?
Yeah, a lot of people do use it that are dealing with things like Lyme, and there's a number of reasons. People generally that have been diagnosed with Lyme generally have a number of other co-infections and issues as well. So a lot of people with Lyme are also dealing with mycotoxin illness, also dealing with magnetic field sensitivity, with heavy metals. I call it the 4M spectrum: metals, molds, microbes, and magnetic fields. Right? Generally, you're dealing with all these things. Parasites, all sorts of stuff. And basically, it's because your body's losing control and all these invaders and things are taking over, because like Lyme is opportunistic. It needs an opportunity to thrive in the body. So most people actually have Lyme, right? I think up to 95%. It's very common. It's kind of like an Epstein-Barr thing. Most people have it. It's just a matter of, just because you have Lyme doesn't mean you have Lyme disease, right? It doesn't have to be taking over your body. So the people that have the symptoms from Lyme generally have all these other issues, and the opportunity is there. The body's just not healthy enough to naturally combat the Lyme. So that's where the zeolite can really come in and be helpful, because it helps clean up the environment. And a lot of times that removes the opportunity for the Lyme to be thriving. Now, it doesn't necessarily, some people think it does, but I don't think zeolite is necessarily going in and directly grabbing onto Lyme or anything. I think it's more the cleanup effect that's allowing your immune system to naturally start attacking more effectively. And also Lyme releases a number of waste products. So a lot of times when we're dealing with these microbial issues, whether it be Lyme or yeast or parasites, viruses, whatever it may be, it's not always the microbe itself that's causing the issue. It's a lot of times the waste products of the microbes that are stressing out the system, right? So, for example, one of the waste products from Lyme and Candida and a lot of microbes is going to be ammonia, which we talked about. And if, so that's adding to our total toxic burden, and ammonia is very toxic. Once again, if the liver is not functioning properly, because the liver takes ammonia and it converts it to a byproduct called urea, which then goes to your kidneys and is excreted. So if your liver is not working optimally, which usually it's not, if you've got Lyme or some other complex illness, then you're getting this buildup of ammonia and it's just floating around. So it's your own ammonia production from metabolism. And now you've got this extra ammonia from the Lyme and from the yeast and from whatever else. And then if your kidneys aren't working properly, whatever ammonia did get converted to urea, the urea is now building up, which is also toxic, not as bad as ammonia, but still toxic. And zeolite also binds to urea. So it's just another one of those things that binds to ammonia, urea, et cetera. So with Lyme, a lot of people do find it helpful for one reason or the other. A lot of times the brain fog, they call it Lyme brain, right? And just brain fog in general, even if you don't have Lyme, a lot of people find the ZeoCharge to be very effective at calming down the brain, just because a lot of times it's this constant exposure to these toxins that are resulting in this inflammatory process that is resulting in brain fog, and it just binds to some of those things. Yeast is another interesting one. So Candida, for example, is something that a lot of people deal with, which also is connected with mercury. So a lot of people that have high mercury levels also have levels of, high levels of yeast because they kind of bind to each other. But the yeast is another one. Candida produces all sorts of toxic byproducts that poison us, right? One of the big ones, again, is ammonia. And ammonia is very alkaline, and yeast actually prefers an alkaline environment. So yeast produces this byproduct ammonia, which helps it survive because it's providing an environment that yeast likes to live in. So one, it's poisoning us, the ammonia. Two, it's strengthening the yeast. So just by binding the ammonia, we're fixing the terrain of the body where the body is at a better position to naturally remove the yeast. The yeast is less comfortable, and it's going to be helping with symptoms as well. So just with microbial issues, it's a really good foundation, especially if you're going on some sort of additional protocol to kill off some of these microbes. Maybe you're going on an antifungal protocol or a Lyme protocol or whatever it may be. As you start killing these things, there's all sorts of waste products being produced, and that can be a very big stressor on the body. So taking ZeoCharge in combination with those things is generally a very good idea to reduce some of those die-off reactions and help the body get through that process.
And lipopolysaccharides too.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So those, endotoxins produced by the bacteria as they're dying off can just be strong immune triggers, also cause lots of issues. And the ZeoCharge seems to be very effective at sopping up some of that stuff. And so zeolite is used largely for people suffering with diarrhea. And a lot of times, right, diarrhea is caused by, lipopolysaccharide issues. So that's probably one of the reasons that it's helping with that. So very interesting stuff there. The other thing is, because people ask me, is what's it going to do to my digestion? And because that's one of the main benefits people notice right off the bat is improved digestion with ZeoCharge. But it's different types of results. So some people have diarrhea and it calms down the system and they don't have diarrhea anymore. Other people have constipation just normally. They take the ZeoCharge and the constipation is relieved. So it's really more of just because I think it's calming down the digestive tract and getting to more of the root cause issues, it's regulating digestion. So I hear it all the time where people have had chronic constipation issues and they've tried all sorts of things. Nothing really works. And then 3 days into the ZeoCharge, when taken properly, which we'll get into, the constipation's gone. I mean, some of these people, constipation for 30 years, nothing's helped. A week into ZeoCharge, the constipation's gone. So really amazing stuff. It's just really more of a root cause thing. And then the diarrhea as well, calming down that. So for digestion, it's incredible. For leaky gut, I would say it's probably the top leaky gut product, because when it comes to leaky gut, there's a lot of great products out there, but a lot of them are designed more at whether it's repopulating the flora in the gut or repairing the gut lining. But if you're not removing the irritants that are destroying the gut lining, causing it to be extra permeable, then those solutions are going to be a temporary fix and potentially not strong enough. So I think that's where just the detox aspect and removing this toxic stuff from the body it's giving the body an opportunity to naturally heal on its own. And I think that's the key, right? It's something that doesn't work against the body; it works with the body, just helping it get back to where it needs to be.
Okay, so that's awesome. So now let's see. The one thing I have that has been brought to my attention, I've just heard some people say, and you can clarify here, is the claims that it can cause aluminum toxicity. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So that is one of the things that people will find online, and it's one of those things that's very misunderstood. The reason that that claim exists is because zeolite is its technical term is an aluminosilicate. So it's made primarily of silicone and aluminum. That's just what makes up its structure. You can't remove the aluminum from the structure or zeolite wouldn't exist. What's important to understand is that zeolite doesn't break down in the body, right? It's got this honeycomb structure made of silicone, aluminum, and some other elements that just passes through. It traps the toxic elements in its cage and it leaves the body. It's not accumulating, not causing any sort of toxicity. Now, having said that, we're talking about ZeoCharge, right? I can't speak to the safety of other zeolite products or other types of zeolite. For example, synthetic zeolite has been shown, at least one of them called Zeolite A, has been shown to cause accumulation of aluminum in organs. But that's because it's not natural, it's man-made, it's messed up the natural nature of zeolite, and that's not ideal. So the reason that clinoptilolite, which is the form of zeolite we use, the main reason that that was chosen to be used in supplements and proven to be safe for humans is because of its high silicone to aluminum ratio, right? And that's basically what determines the structure and stability of the zeolite. So a lot of the other zeolites have these, they all have aluminum and silicone, but they have different ratios. Some of them will break down in stomach acid and cause issues. So that's why clinoptilolite was chosen, because it's got this high silicone to aluminum ratio and it's stable. And a lot of them are around, like a 4-to-1 ratio, sometimes 5-to-1. ZeoCharge is actually a 6.33-to-1. So it's a very high silicone to aluminum ratio. It's 74.8% silicone. And we have the complete chemical structure we can send to people if they're interested in that, along with all the third-party testing and all that. So it's very stable. All clinoptilolite should be stable, natural, the natural occurring stuff. Ours is even more stable just because of that high ratio, and that also makes it more effective. So the other thing, this all sounds great in theory, and you can believe me, you can believe what you read, but we want proof. And that's one of the reasons we did the case studies, because this all made sense to me just from a research perspective. But I honestly didn't know if ZeoCharge was going to cause some level of toxicity or not. So we did the case studies, which tested the tissue levels of aluminum, and we were giving people fairly large doses of ZeoCharge, and we found that not only did it not cause an accumulation of aluminum in the tissue, it actually had an aluminum detoxing effect, which was quite amazing. I personally took an entire jar a day, which is 150 grams. That's a lot of zeolite, right? 150 grams a day for 10 days in a row. I tested myself before and after, and there was zero increase of aluminum. There was a slight decrease, but the test was to the 5th decimal point. It was like 0.01079 or something. And the post test was 0.01078. So it was like identical, one little decimal point lower. So definitely did not cause any accumulation of aluminum after 10 days there. But in the case studies, they were longer than 10 days, and there was also not an accumulation of aluminum. And we're talking up to 60 grams in the case studies, which is very high doses. So some products on the market is there a concern? Potentially. But ours is really the only one that I know of that we can prove that without a shadow of the doubt, it's not going to cause aluminum toxicity because of just the safety mechanisms taken and just the quality of the zeolite, the high silicone content, and we can prove it through our case studies.
Yeah, so you're basically zeolite is pretty safe. Nothing to worry about there.
ZeoCharge, I'll say ZeoCharge is safe.
ZeoCharge.
Yeah.
ZeoCharge.
And just in general, you have the liquids and the powders. And, it's really important to get both the proper quality and the proper quantity, which I think we'll get into, but the use is very important. So someone could misuse any supplement and it could be a disaster. It's especially the case with zeolite.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people take these low doses, like in
Mhm.
liquids, and they think, oh, I'm going to start with a low dose, work my way up, and it ends up being a disaster. Not because the zeolite itself is dangerous, but because the body's reaction to the detox process can cause a number of symptoms, and that's not ideal. And I think that's what we're gonna get into in a little bit. So I'll save it for that.
Perfect. So, okay. So then, I mean, everything you're saying sounds amazing. So is there something that zeolite can't do? Because I don't want people to think like it's the end all be all to everything. What can it not do?
I mean, there's no one thing that's going to solve all your problems, right? I'm not going to come out here and say this is the only thing you need. I like to refer to ZeoCharge as a foundation to another protocol, right? Some people, that's all they're taking, and it results in incredible benefits, which can kind of be seen from our case studies. I mean, I was honestly surprised at just on its own what ZeoCharge can do, but I like to consider it a foundation, right? Foundation to detox protocols, foundation to any protocol, because living in the 21st century, we're exposed to these toxic elements, and a lot of times our bodies just can't keep up with the daily dose of toxins we're exposed to, the food, water, the air, the internal production of things like ammonia. Our bodies just are struggling. So if we can assist the body, it just calms the storm, makes things work better. The body has more energy to focus on other things, and it's a great foundation. So just in general, I mean, there's so many benefits. We barely scratched the surface, but there's even things like eyesight, where people have been emailing me saying, this product has helped my eyes, macular degeneration, and just not needing reading glasses anymore. Things like that, whether it's from the oxidative stress reduction or actually removing mercury or something from ocular tissue, don't know. But there's all sorts of additional benefits. I mean, we didn't even talk about pH. So that's another reason people are drawn to zeolite, is that it has a strong pH regulating effect. And this is interesting. It's an alkaline mineral, but it actually has a pH modulating effect. So when there was a study done, zeolite was put into water. It was put into acidic water and it raised the pH. It was put into alkaline water and it lowered the pH. So it actually regulates pH levels, which is important because in your body, you don't want the same pH in every area, right? You want a lower pH in the digestive tract to, break down things, all that. So it's kind of interesting. It has a pH regulating effect. And also just by removing the toxic elements that might be negatively affecting your pH, you can regulate it in that way. So there's all sorts of benefits. One, detox, that's what it's known for. It's able to directly bind all sorts of toxic elements, grab those things just that are floating around, calm down the system. Two, it's able to get the body's natural detox processes working better, just because as you're binding all this stuff from circulation, your body says, you know what, now I've got this help. I'm going to start dumping these toxins and metals that I've been storing in fat, because now I have the help of the ZeoCharge to help remove it from the body. So you've got the direct binding capacity. You've got the ability for the body naturally to start detoxing with the assistance of zeolite. Then you've got all these other benefits that are just a result of, whether it's a result of the detox or something else. It's just really an incredible compound. And when used properly and when using the right product, I found it just to honestly be one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
Me too. But I will want to say one thing. Don't think you're going to take this and go to McDonald's every day and eat Burger King and French fries and think that it doesn't, you can never replace a healthy diet and lifestyle. So this is going to support that greatly. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I would definitely not encourage anyone to ever eat McDonald's. Limit that,
Yeah,
or
thank
something else.
you.
But yeah, it's back to foundation. It's something to build your protocol on. It's going to help your body work better, but it's not a substitute for doing what you need to do, right? We have to take control of our health. We're not going to be healthy by accident anymore, right? We have to take action and personal responsibility for these things. ZeoCharge is a great tool, but in addition, of course, we need to be doing the other things we know we need to be doing.
That's right. That's perfect. Thank you so much. This was great.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mandy. This was awesome.